Hello everybody, this is Maya Zahira with Psychic Protection Sanctuary, and we are now live in our Psychic Protection Sanctuary Facebook group. So our topic for today is 11 common tactics of the dark forces. So what I did was I think it was a couple weeks ago. It was my day off, and I was just getting stuff done, and was doing laundry and whatever, household chores, and I wasn't really thinking about anything in particular. So my mind was pretty open, and just in that light thinking state. What popped into my head was the idea that there are certain patterns that occur when someone is being targeted by the dark forces. So, and then I grabbed my notebook and I just started writing stuff down based on things that I've observed firsthand. And those of you who've been following my work for a while, you probably have noticed that as of yet, I don't really quote other people's work very much. I'm very supportive of everybody's work, but really what I talk about and what I write about is information that I've experienced firsthand or that I've observed firsthand. So that's what we're going to dive into today. I do see we have some people live with us, but I'm not seeing who it is. So go ahead and say hello and where you're joining from. And I've been a teacher for many, many years. Before I started doing this spiritual work over 20 years ago, I was a school teacher. So I still have that like teacher archetype, and I really love to educate and whatever I'm passionate about, which is spiritual empowerment and developing your spiritual gifts. I love to teach it. And with that being said, I invite you to grab a pen and paper because you might want to take some notes on this. Okay. So let me just, speaking of notes, let me glance at my notes and see what I have forgotten. Okay, so I just want to mention before we get into the basics of our topic, for those of you who are new to me, or maybe not so new, just want to remind you that you can go deeper with this content in a couple of different ways. First, you can visit my website, which is www.psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. And there's free stuff on there, and there's also a way to sign up for my 12-month program, which is a paid program. And there's also a way that you can schedule a one-on-one appointment. And so there's something for everybody. I set it up that way on purpose. I know that in my past, when I was dealing with some really, really serious psychic protection issues, there were times when I really needed help and didn't have a whole bunch of money to do it. And it's hard enough to have those kinds of serious issues without having the feeling like you don't have support. So that is why I've very intentionally set up my website that way, and also social media. Like, this is a free class. I do free stuff all the time. I want you to have support no matter what. I do also do this full time. This is what I've devoted my life to. So, and I do live very simply. I live out in the country. I rent a little house. So I'm not like living an extravagant lifestyle or anything like that. But I do have to pay my frugal bills. So I do have some programs and some things that do cost money, and those are the things where we go a lot deeper. That's actually where I focus all of my attention and my time, as well as with my one-on-one clients. So when you go to my website, psychicprotectionsanctuary.com, you will notice some different things on there, some that are free, some that are paid, and it's set up that way on purpose. So I hope that you find what you need on there. And then a couple of other free things. So my YouTube channel, there's tons of free videos on there. Tons. So the channel is called Psychic Protection Sanctuary. And you can just search for that on YouTube. And make sure to subscribe to it and then click on the bell so you get a little notification when I upload. I don't do tons of videos. I do, like some people, do a video every day. That's too much for me to keep up with. And so I very steadily do at least 2 a month and sometimes more. So, and they're always filled with potent content, and that's all free. So go on there. And if you're watching this on YouTube, then you can join the free Facebook group, which is Psychic Protection Sanctuary Facebook group. And that's a way that you can interact as well. So hopefully that gives you some information on how to go deeper. And okay, so let's get into our topic. Our topic is 11 tactics of the dark forces. I'm certain there are more than 11 tactics, but as I mentioned when I sat down and made some notes the other day, just off the top of my head, I easily wrote down 11 tactics that I have observed and experienced firsthand. So I've observed these with my clients, and I've experienced it as well. So let's start off with some basics though. So if you're new to this and you're wondering, like, well, what does she mean by the dark forces? So let's talk about what are the dark forces. When I talk about dark forces, I mean the collective of negative beings, negative spiritual beings, or non-human beings. Actually, some of them can be human too. Okay, I'm just going to say beings. So the collective of beings that overall have a negative agenda for our planet and for humanity and for specific people. Okay, so when I say the dark forces, I'm talking about a collective, not just about one being. And that the thing is there are different people out there that really focus in on certain types of beings, and that's totally fine. You may think of those collective negative beings as being demons or reptilians or archons or evil spirits or jinn, or whatever you want to call them is fine with me. It's my opinion as a clairvoyant, as someone who can see energies and see beings that other people can't. It's my opinion that there's not just one group, or there's not just one type. There are many, many different beings, and there are many different agendas, and it's super complicated, and it's a huge rabbit hole. We're not going to go down that particular rabbit hole in this video. We're just going to focus on the tactics. But suffice it to say, when I refer to the dark forces, I'm talking about a collective that has a negative agenda. And so now let's go into the second part of our basics, now that we know a little bit more about what the dark forces are. So why are some people targeted? So our topic that we're talking about is 11 tactics of the dark forces. In other words, how they attack people, how they target people. Well, why are there some people who are targeted? There are actually, so let's go over that first. There are actually some people on the planet who are very, very targeted by the dark forces, and other people not so much. Or they're not really, they're living more unconsciously, and just kind of, when I say unconsciously, they're just going to work, coming home, drinking a beer, watching TV, and going to bed. Like, they're living a very unconscious life, so they're not, and there's no judgment about that. Just saying that there's a lot of people on the planet who are just kind of numb and not really really aware yet. Still very hooked into the matrix. Again, no judgment about that, just stating a fact. And those people who are really hooked in and are really brainwashed are they tend to be less targeted, because they're not really a threat to the dark forces. They're very anesthetized, and so there's no need to target them. They're already being mildly targeted and kept asleep, so there's no need to target them in a big way. Now the people who are targeted are the ones who are starting to wake up, who are starting to become more aware of what's going on on our planet, in air quotes, because there's like, that's a really loaded phrase. Like, what does that mean? There's so much going on as far as behind the scenes with human beings, and also with spiritual beings, with alien forces. I mean, there's so much going on. So as people start to wake up to certain levels of what's going on, then they are more prone to be targeted. Also, as people wake up spiritually, as their spiritual gifts open and awaken and strengthen, as they become more spiritually aware, more spiritually pure, etc., more focused on a grounded type of both being grounded and spiritual, then they are more targeted. So as people open up more spiritually, they can become more targeted. Okay. Also, populations, people who are more vulnerable will tend to be targeted because they are an easy target. So not only are people who are spiritually awakening targeted, not only people who are waking up being targeted, but people who are naturally more vulnerable. Let's say they had major trauma, physical, emotional, spiritual, or otherwise, or societal, whether it was individual or societal. They experienced major trauma, and it caused a lot of damage either to their physical body or to their auric field. It makes them more of an easy target. So they will be targeted more readily than somebody who's not. I mentioned people who are opening up to their spiritual gifts. Also, people who have been very open spiritually their whole lives tend to be targeted more, as well as empaths. Empaths are people who are super sensitive and can feel other people's emotions or physical symptoms within their body. So they feel other people's stuff, or they feel the stuff, the energy of the planet and energy of animals and plants, etc. There's different kinds of empaths, and they can feel it within their own being. So empaths tend to be very targeted. I've seen examples where an empath and then just like your average Joe were living in the same house together, and one person, the person who was spiritually sensitive, was majorly targeted. The other person was like oblivious, and they didn't experience any adverse effects at all. So I just had a bug fly on my face because I'm out here in nature. Okay, let's see what else. Looking at why people are targeted. Okay, another reason why some people are targeted is that they are they begin to uncover covert information. So once they start to see beyond the veil, they start to understand some things that are going on in the human aspect of the world, some of the secret human things going on, or spiritual or alien. There's no strong distinction actually, but that's a whole other rabbit hole. But if someone begins to uncover or be a whistleblower, or share publicly information about secret things going on, then they will often be targeted as well. There's also another reason why some people are targeted, and I don't talk about this very often, but it can also be connected with your bloodline. So if your ancestry has been targeted, different people in your ancestry, perhaps you come from a certain bloodline that has been targeted in different ways, then that can be a reason why you could be. So the reason why I go over all of this is because not everyone is targeted. So I don't want you to watch this and then say, oh my gosh, every single thing that happens, anytime I have car trouble or the lights go out or there's a storm or whatever, it's because I'm being targeted, or anytime there's some drama in my life, it's because I'm targeted. There's a lot of reasons why all of those things happen. They can just be normal, mundane reasons. One of my students asked me a question last month when I was experiencing some targeting activities myself, and she said, well, how do you know that it's targeting? Can't it just be a normal thing? Because sometimes shit happens. I had a minor automotive issue that actually caused a dangerous situation. And so her question is a valid one. We shouldn't assume that every single little thing that happens is from the dark forces. So please don't go down that fear snowball. Don't let that snowball. Okay. So this information it's about helping you to become more discerning. And also I want to just throw in here that this is why it's important that you hopefully will develop your intuitive skills. Everybody has natural psychic/intuitive skills, the ability to see beyond, to understand beyond what you are physically observing in your environment. And when you have developed those intuitive skills, then you'll be able to tune in and, ask yourself, is this something that's coming from the dark forces or from some malevolent influence, or is it just one of those shit happens kind of things where your car breaks down just because it does? Because that also, just normal stuff happens. So I do encourage you to develop your intuition. And that reminds me, before we go further into our topic, I pulled my book out. I was going to show it to you all, and I forgot to include it in the introduction. And as I mentioned, your intuitive development, there's a whole section in my book all about your different intuitive skills. And there's a ton more. This is not just a book on intuition, but that's one little sliver of a section in the book that's all about psychic protection. So the book is Darkness Disguised as Light, The Hidden Truth About Psychic Protection and the Illusion Matrix by me, Maya Zahira. And by the way, this month is the 1-year anniversary of this book. And so, and I'm doing this live stream June 2019. So if you're watching the replay, for the rest of this week, the book is on sale. So you can go to Amazon and type in that book title, and make sure you type in my name as well, Maya Zahira. And it's on sale for the next couple of days. And another quick announcement I just want to share with you guys. I'm really excited because like I said, I put the book out in the world a year ago, and now I've been waiting until I had the right firsthand experiences and new knowledge coming in, that I would have the right information and enough story to be able to do the sequel. and because I didn't want to just throw it together. And so I've had plenty of firsthand experiences in the last year, since the book came out. And so I'm now, this month, I'm ready to sit down and write out the outline for the sequel, for part 2. And, you know, I don't know, it might take me a year to write the second one like it did the first one. We shall see. Or it might take way less, since I've now done my first one. The second one might go a lot faster. But oh my gosh, I don't know. I think maybe the second book might even be more exciting than the first book because there's been some crazy stuff that has happened. And I know that it's because, I mean, I really truly believe that a lot of the firsthand experiences that I've had have literally been because I'm supposed to experience these things firsthand so that I can then turn around and teach it. It's just not comparable to reading something in a book somewhere. You know, like I could just teach you stuff that I've read in a book somewhere, but that's not nearly as powerful. And how do I know just because I read it in a book if it's really true? But everything that I'm teaching you in this video right now, and in my book, Darkness Disguised as Light, and the sequel that will eventually be coming, all of it is based on firsthand experience. So let's get into the tactics. So grab a pen and paper. These are the tactics, the 11 tactics of the dark forces. Again, I just jotted down 11. I know there's more than that, but these are the ones that just popped into my head off the top of my head based on all the experiences that I've had. These are in no particular order, so keep that in mind. They're not in order of importance or connection or anything like that. This is just the order that they popped into my head. Okay, so Phyllis says, and hi Stephanie and Phyllis, hello. I think we have a few others too. Phyllis says, that's great. Not great about the freaky situations, but great that you're willing to share your experiences. Yeah, you know, I do want to share one thing that last month, was it last month? Yeah, last month. There was a little, well, I'll just say, I haven't had a major situation exactly like the one in my first book, but I've had several smaller ones, but I actually have had a couple of really major ones, but it's been a while. Those are all going to go in the book. It's going to be a roller coaster. But anyway, what I was thinking about a month ago when I experienced a bit of interference, when I had traveled a couple of states away to a psychic fair where I was working one-on-one with clients that I'd never met before. So I was, you know, I traveled on purpose so that I could connect with people who needed what I had to offer, but, you know, that maybe hadn't found me on the internet like you guys have. And so I was doing some important work. So remember what I said, some people are targeted if they are, and I didn't word it this way before, but like if they're working against the dark agenda, they'll be targeted. So that's what I was doing that weekend at that psychic fair. And so there were a couple of things that were interfered with. My automobile ended up having some very dangerous issues. I'll write about that in my sequel. There were some people that were guided to do some things that ended up wearing me down, so that when the automotive thing happened, it was a lot harder to handle. And that's an example of some of the tactics that I'm going to talk about. But I was thinking about it, and when I got back to my Airbnb, the place that I was staying, I was like, oh my God, I'm so sick of this. But then I was like, oh yeah, I know why this is happening, because you know, I'm supposed to have these firsthand experiences so that I can share them with all of you who are sometimes having even more intense experiences than what I've had. And also, I had this flashback back to 25 years ago when I got out of college, and I worked for a few years as an elementary school teacher. And my very first job out of college was as a second grade teacher. And, if you think of the second graders in your life, they're not like the same as a high school kid, right? So they're barely just learning how to read. And I remember when I was teaching them math, that, it's really basic math in second grade, really basic. And I was using like these, they call them manipulatives, like you'd use like little blocks and little things to show like 2 + 5. You've got 2 yellow blocks and 5 green blocks, blah, blah, blah. So as I was preparing each day's math lesson, I remember even at the time thinking, wow, I was terrible at math. Like growing up in elementary school and in high school and in college, I struggled with math. It was so hard for me. I didn't fail math, but it always felt challenging for me. I was always much better at English. And I remember as I was preparing these second grade lessons, these math lessons, thinking, I had this realization that actually math ended up being my favorite subject to teach those second graders, because since I had always had trouble with it, I was able to understand why they were having trouble with it. And I was able to figure out creative approaches to help them learn it. And that occurred to me last month when I went through it was pretty minor in the larger scheme of things, this little minor situation. And I thought to myself, I could beat myself up and I could say, well, you're supposedly this person who teaches spiritual empowerment, and look, you're having this issue. And I was like, no, I'm not going to waste my energy letting my brain go down that little tornado, because what's actually true is that who better to teach spiritual empowerment and spiritual warfare and psychic protection than someone who struggled with it her whole life and had to learn to break through all of that. And I can't wait till you guys read the second book, even though it's not even written yet, because that is what really happens in what's going to be the second book. So anyway, if I was someone who had never struggled with this stuff, and I was just like, oh, it's just so easy, just like sprinkle some holy water, what's the big deal, just get over it, then you probably would not be watching my videos, right? I've actually encountered spiritual teachers who've said that kind of thing to their students, and they've said it to me. And how annoying is that, right? You're like, oh my God. Well, for some of us, it's not so easy. It's hard. So we got to figure out like how to really look at it from all directions and figure it out, and how to use the math blocks with it. And, So let's get into our tactics now. These are 11 tactics of the dark forces. So the first one on my list is that they use your light qualities against you. This is one that I think a lot of people may not have thought of. What do I mean by light qualities, using your light qualities against you? So your light qualities, when I say that, I mean like if you're if you're someone who, oops, someone's trying to call. We don't want that. Okay, you're still here. So if you're someone who is very like compassionate and unconditionally loving, then the dark forces will try to take those qualities and, they'll, for example, send abusers your way, people who are abusive, and then this like compassionate, unconditionally loving quality that you have, they end up twisting that so that you end up getting sucked into this abuse. So they use your light qualities against you. If you're an empath, then they will send a narcissist your way, okay? So whatever your light qualities may be, let's say you are very, very spiritually attuned and you're very psychic, then they will use that against you. They will send, distorted clairvoyant or clairaudient messages to you and attack you that way. So whatever your light qualities are, they can attack you through those. They will also, so number 2, they will also use your dark qualities against you. So whatever you struggle with deep down, could be if you have anger issues or some violent tendencies, or if you tend towards jealousy in your relationships, or resentment, or just fill in the blank with any so-called negative qualities that you might be struggling with. And by the way, I don't really consider any of those qualities negative in and of themselves, as long as we channel them in a healthy way. But what the dark forces will do is they'll take these qualities and they will try to initiate them. So they will energetically try to activate, if someone has anger issues, they'll try to activate that anger. Or if they have violent tendencies, they'll talk to that person in their mind and try to encourage them to harm themselves or harm others. So whatever dark qualities you struggle with, I would advise that you, rather than just being in denial about those, I would advise you to really work with your shadow qualities and really acknowledge what they are and work on healing and integrating them. So because if you're in denial and you're just ignoring them, then it's even easier for the dark forces to manipulate you through those. Okay. And if you've got some, more serious types of darker qualities that you're struggling with, then you might seek out some therapy for that as well. Okay, number 3. So they will use your vulnerabilities against you. So if you have unhealed emotional wounds, if you have core wounds, personal triggers, I'll share with you what some of mine are so you understand what I mean. So for me, I have some core wounding from from really my birth. I have some core wounding around abandonment and not feeling safe on the planet. And I won't go into that whole story of why, but I'll just in a nutshell say I was put up for adoption. The family issue is quite complex. So I won't go into all the details over that. But one of the results has been that I've struggled with feeling not safe in the world, feeling like, and so that's a trigger for me. So it's real easy. It has been real easy for the dark forces to send a situation where I don't feel safe, or to send a situation where someone abandons me. Okay. And then it hits me way harder because that's one of my core wounds. They're not going to really be as effective if they try to target something that's no big deal for me. So whatever your core wounds are, whatever your unresolved traumas, your deepest pains, those things that trigger you the most, those would be targeted. Okay. And even just your everyday triggers, like your, I'm going to think of like an everyday trigger. Like one of my triggers and things that annoys me is when I'm driving and people change lanes in front of me without using their signal. Like that's just a little pet peeve of mine. It's not a core wound, right? But it's just a little thing. The dark forces will even work with those. Okay. And again, remember that sometimes it's just life happening and it's our own inner stuff that's just working itself out. It's not necessarily coming from an outside source. Everything is not coming from an outside source. Sometimes it's just our own unhealed stuff, but sometimes it is. So then we're going over this information so that you can develop that discernment. So they use your vulnerabilities against you. Jeannie is saying, that makes sense. And she says, yes, the no turn signal. Yeah, especially when they get like right in front of me. I'm one of those weird people that leaves a lot of distance between me and the car in front of me. And I hate it when people pull right in front of me. So there's like no space. It's like bumper to bumper. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Number 4 on the list is that the dark forces will manipulate others to activate your triggers, core wounds, etc. So the dark forces will manipulate another person or people to say or do something to activate you, to trigger you. And once you become more aware, you'll notice that sometimes people who are less aware, either not really aware all the time, or maybe they're just having a moment where they're not as grounded as they usually are, that in moments like that, those people are easy to nudge. So they'll receive like a little energetic nudge to be rude to you, or to say something, or to do something. And they'll often realize later that they don't really know why they said it or they did it. They just know that they felt an urge. And it actually wasn't coming from them. It was directed by the dark forces. So you'll notice that sometimes people will be activated or manipulated to activate you. Okay, and then similarly, the dark forces will sometimes manipulate situations in general, as well as electronics and mechanical things like automobiles to activate your triggers or to put you in danger even. And I know that sounds scary, but that can happen. And as you may have guessed, I have been a targeted individual for, gosh, I look back and I think, really ever since high school, maybe before that, I don't know, but I've had different circumstances, but now I understand it. And so now, as I'm going through my life, I'm just aware of what's going on around me, and I will notice when something little happens, then I know that, this could be some targeting happening, and I tune in intuitively as to whether that's true or not, and then I might need to do some clearing. Okay, so the clearing kinds of things are the things that I teach in my paid programs. And then, so that takes us to some of our next ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Number 6, the dark forces, one of their main tactics is that they will try to wear you down. They will start slow and then increase over time. So, when I was saying that I try to be very aware when there's some kind of negative influence, negative interference happening, because they often will do this. They'll try to wear you down. They start slow and increase over time. So I learned the hard way that if I don't pay attention and some small little psychic attacks are happening and I just am in denial, then it will snowball. It can snowball and turn into something really, really huge. This is a really major tactic to keep in mind, that they will try to wear you down. They'll start slow and then increase. So they'll start with little subtle things that you may be able to write off as just other people being jerks or just random situations. But then it's actually all about putting you in a situation where you're more tired. I had a situation last month where I was working all day, and the place that I went to would not allow me to bring my food in. So I had to go 10 hours without eating any of the special food that I was trying to have for the day, my special things that I can eat. So by the time that I left, my blood sugar was low. I was cranky. I had brain fog because I hadn't had what I needed for my body. And in hindsight, I was journaling about this yesterday or the other day, and I realized, oh my gosh, that was intentional, because right after that, I left and ended up in a very dangerous driving situation that even when the driving situation happened, I immediately knew it was negative interference from the dark forces. But it wasn't until I wrote out the whole story of the weekend the other day that I was like, oh my God, that's totally an example of the wearing you down thing. So it started off small. It was a minor annoyance. I wasn't able to have my food with me, but it was to wear me down, to get me ready for the next wave. And so it'll come in waves. And then after that, then it can come in a bigger wave and a bigger wave. Okay. So the next on the list, and this is related to it, the going in waves, another common tactic is that they will try to hit you when you're down. So you may have something happen in your life that's normal, that's not caused by the dark forces, but that you're extra tired, or you're stressed out, or there's some things going on at work, or maybe you're sick with a cold, or there's something difficult going on with a family member, and it's not necessarily caused by the dark forces. It's just normal life happening. Life has ups and downs. Life has challenges, but you're not at your strongest. Maybe you're not feeling very grounded, and you're a little more more easily triggered. You're exhausted, or you're just worn down. Your auric field is more worn down. And so they will try to hit you when you're down. That's the next tactic. They will hit you when you're down. So at those times when you're feeling more depleted, you do need to be aware. You need to remember to be especially aware at those times, okay? And to make sure you take extra care of yourself. Next on the list, we get into, okay, here's another one that kind of stands on its own. They, sometimes if you have health vulnerability, like you have a genetic predisposition for something, or there's some other way that you can become vulnerable to an illness or a condition or something, then the dark forces, if they're able to, they will try to initiate or worsen an illness. And I experienced that firsthand. As someone who has a genetic issue, I was holding it at bay with all of the techniques that I was doing. And there have been specific times when my health was really getting blasted, and I knew that it was more than just normal health stuff. I could really feel intuitively, I knew that it was being aggravated and initiated and worsened even more by psychic attack, by an energetic attack by the dark forces. So that is not the case for everybody. If you're not vulnerable in that way, they may not target you in that way. But just know that it can, that can be the case. Also keeping in mind that sometimes people do just get sick. That is part of the human condition, right? And sometimes people get cold and the flu, and sometimes people get cancer, sometimes people get autoimmune illnesses, sometimes people get depression. There's stuff that happens, but it can also be activated or worsened by the dark forces. So just remember that. Now we get into some relationship stuff. So one way that they will target you, this is a really common tactic. They will send abusers, sociopaths, narcissists, psychopaths, or etc. into your life. Okay. If I've said this and you're like, oh my God, oh, and it clicks for you, you may be somebody who's been targeted in that way. So again, it's about what your vulnerabilities are. The very first thing on my list that I stated was that they will work with your light qualities. So if you are someone who has a huge heart, maybe the flip side of that, the dark quality could be maybe you have boundary issues. You're not very good with boundaries, or you're still needing to work on your discernment. Then the dark forces, they love to target people by sending, especially romantic partners, but also other kinds of people. It could be, another kind of family member. But one very common thing is to send a romantic partner or a string of romantic partners that are abusive or have mental illness. Again, I'm not shaming mental illness at all, but that sometimes people who are targeted individuals by the dark forces will send people who are either abusive, sociopathic, narcissist, psychopathic, personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, or other mental illness, and to hook into you and pull you down. Okay. And then related to that is the next one, and that is that the dark forces will sometimes target people by sending people into their life, a lot of times romantic partners, who are entity infested. So the person is being targeted, and the dark forces will send one or more people into that person's life who are infested with entities. And so then the entities actually then, so some of these tactics end up getting blended together, because the entity infested person is then guided to say and do things to the person who's being targeted, to trigger them, to harm them, to belittle them. And then also a lot of times the entities that are attached to the person will end up attacking the targeted individual as well. So then we get into the final one on my list, and that is that a tactic of the dark forces is that they will activate whatever entities are nearby to attack you. Okay, so again, if you're not vulnerable in that way, then that's great, but some people are more vulnerable to entity attack than others. So for example, for me, I was traveling a couple of months ago, and I was not at my home base where it's really, really safe. I was staying at an Airbnb, and as I clairvoyantly and intuitively checked around, I saw that there were some evil spirits on the land, and they did try to attack me. Now that's going to be in my book. I do think that it would have been way worse if I hadn't had all of my protection. These entities were nasty, nasty, nasty. And so there was a whole scenario there where those particular entities were instructed to really attack me. And they probably would not have done that to other people, because I saw the reviews on Airbnb that all the other people had perfectly fine experiences at that location. Me, I stayed there, and those entities were after me, like big time. It was kind of scary. And so it all depends on whether you are a targeted individual or not, and what your vulnerable areas are. I just want to point out an example here. I don't know if you can hear. I'm not even sure what that is. It's like some kind of piece of equipment that's making a loud buzzing sound. So this is an example of a minor thing that's happening. So I have a new neighbor who's moved catty corner across the street. I'm sure this individual is a perfectly fine human being. Although I would say just basic observation, doesn't seem really all that aware, but that's not for me to know. I don't really know. I don't know the person's heart. But what I do know is that some stuff has been happening. So today, as I started to do this video, I really believe he was guided to come outside and start running his equipment, because it's been quiet all day. And yesterday when I went to, Jeannie, it's maybe like a weed eater or something, but I don't see him. Yesterday I had a class out here at my place, and right before class I was sitting in this spot, just meditating and preparing for the students to arrive. And he started running, he turned on this like really jarring heavy metal music. And then he started screaming at his poor little kid. There's a couple kids over there. And it started just screaming at the kid and saying awful stuff to him. And it was a very jarring energy. And so instead of getting totally thrown off, like, oh my God, that's so upsetting, and I'm so annoyed with him, and he's ruining my day, and I'm trying to have peaceful energy over here, I was like, ooh, I see what's happening. Like, it literally happened right before my students were supposed to show up, and it continued through the first hour of class. And then it was a 2-hour class. And then after they left, I went outside, and he was totally quiet. There was no sound at all. So that's an example of a little minor, I call it interference, negative interference. It can be a person is guided unknowingly, like they're not trying to be harmful, they're just unknowingly guided to do something to interfere. Okay, and so that's an example of one of them. So thank you, neighbor, for giving us a little minor, non-dangerous example. But it's important to notice even those, and he stopped now. It's important to notice even the little minor things, not to get paranoid or anything like that. I'm not encouraging that. But it is important to notice even the small things, because remember, there's that snowball effect. They do like to use that technique where they start with something small just to throw you off center, and then they'll build from there, and then the next wave will come, and the next wave will come. So if you can acknowledge the little things that are happening and do some more grounding and clearing and protection, or whatever you feel is needed, then you can do that. And oftentimes the next stronger wave won't even come. Okay, because if you get sucked in and you don't realize what's happening, then the next stronger waves do come. But a lot of times if you recognize and you do some grounding and clearing, then those next levels won't happen. Okay, so all of this is about awareness, and just awareness and discernment. So use this list to be more aware. Ask yourself if you feel that you have been a targeted individual. But oftentimes it's not an all or nothing thing. Like, I've been targeted way more since I started speaking out about all of these topics. Okay, that just comes with the territory. You may or may not feel like you're being targeted to such a degree, but even smaller targeting can still happen. If you are living a life of love and really trying to do good in your world, then you can sometimes be targeted. So develop your intuitive abilities, develop your discernment, and learn as much as you can about how the dark forces work, how to manage your own energy, and how to stay strong. Okay, so Last chance for questions, because I've got to go to a session right after this. You can find my first book, oh my God, tongue twister. Darkness Disguised as Light, The Hidden Truth About Psychic Protection and the Illusion Matrix by me, Maya Zahira. You can find it on Amazon. And today, or this live stream is happening, what is today's date? June 10th, 2019. And so it is on sale for the rest of this week. But you'll be able to get it at any point, even after the sale is done. And you can find me on my website, www.psychicprotectionsanctuary.com, and my YouTube channel, Psychic Protection Sanctuary, and Facebook group, psychicprotectionsanctuary.com, and Spiritual Empowerment Community, which is is much lighter if you just want life empowerment and you don't want to get into all this deep stuff. So there's a lot of ways you can connect with me for free and with my paid program, Spiritual Empowerment Academy. So if you didn't catch all of that, just go to my website, psychicprotectionsanctuary.com, and you'll find everything that you need on there. As always, it has been wonderful connecting with all of you. And I did recently change the schedule for our live streams to be the second Monday monthly. We're going to do that for a while in this particular Facebook group. My other Facebook group, Spiritual Empowerment Community, we're going to be on the third Mondays. So if you want to mark your calendar, second and third Mondays. In here, second Monday at 6 p.m. Central. Speaking of the time, I need to go now, but it's been wonderful, and I'm sending you all my love. Until next time.